Viktor Orban has become so engrossed in defending Vladimir Putin in Europe that he is filing a lawsuit against the entire European Union in the European Court of Justice, because Europe has refused Russian gas and is striving to give up Russian oil. This again shows that people like Orban shouldn't get concessions. Let me explain why. Just a few days ago, United States President Donald Trump gave Viktor Orban a sanctions waiver, which allowed Hungary to buy Russian oil for another year. This concession also covers Slovakia, which will keep buying oil from Russia. Before this decision by Trump, Orban was going around complaining everywhere that Hungary was facing tough times. But as soon as he got the concession from Donald Trump, he became bolder, more arrogant, and is once again going against Europe. And Orban became so bold for a reason. According to Politico, after his visit to Washington, Viktor Orban stated that the United States would provide Hungary with a so-called financial shield, which would help Budapest deal with pressure from the European Union. Supposedly, the European Union is blocking funding from the common European Union budget because Orban is violating the principles of the rule of law in Hungary. But now Orban is not afraid of this, since Trump will supposedly help him financially before the elections in April next year. I'm Alexei Pichi, let's discuss this together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like this episode, and write any detailed comment under this video. Also subscribe to my Telegram channel Pichi News, the link to it is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as soon as it comes in. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so financially with any donation or a paid sponsorship subscription using the links and details provided. The video's description says, support Alexei Pichi's channel in any way you prefer. I appreciate any support you can give. So the Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, announced today that his government is suing the European Union over the decision to phase out imports of Russian gas. Budapest, the Kremlin's closest ally in Europe, continues to rely heavily on Russian energy imports in the European Union even after Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Earlier, he used his veto power to secure an exemption from European Union sanctions against Russian energy resources. But last month, the countries of the European Union agreed to gradually phase out the remaining imports of gas from Russia by the end of 2027. According to diplomats, all countries except Hungary and Slovakia supported this move, and that's why Europe is moving in the direction of completely abandoning Russian gas. But Orban, who apparently has close ties with the Kremlin, does not agree with this decision. And now I'll quote him. "We do not accept this clearly illegal decision, which contradicts European values chosen by Brussels to remove the national government of Hungary from work simply because it disagrees with them. We are appealing to the European Court. This is no longer a sanction but a trade policy measure, and sanctions require a unanimous decision when voting in the European Union, while for trade policy a majority decision is sufficient." Well, here Orban got carried away and says that supposedly, listen to this, supposedly the entire European Union decided to give up Russian gas so that there wouldn't be a national government in Hungary. Well, like, so that he doesn't win the next elections. What kind of opinion about yourself do you have to think that everyone is revolving around you like that? But then Orban admits that basically he was bypassed. The European Commission still found a way to get around his veto right. Instead of calling the refusal of Russian gas sanctions, the European Union called this step a trade policy. And those are two very different things, excuse the tautology. And at this point, nobody really cares about Orban and Fico's vetoes. Because when it comes to trade policy, you don't need a unanimous decision, you need a majority decision. It's only for sanctions that a unanimous decision is required. But Orban decided to go all out. And now the Prime Minister of Hungary added that he is also looking for other non-legal ways to persuade Brussels, but said that he will not disclose the details for now. Now I'm curious, what are these methods? Moreover, Orban stated that the refusal of United States sanctions, which he achieved last week during a meeting with his, as he put it, dear friend and ideological ally, United States President Donald Trump, could last for more than a year. He said that if necessary, and if he asks Trump nicely, Washington will allow Hungary to continue buying Russian oil. In October, let me remind you, Trump imposed sanctions on Moscow's two biggest oil companies. Apparently, he lost patience with President Vladimir Putin of Russia for not ending the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which has been going on for almost 4 years now. United States officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, stated that Budapest has been granted a temporary exemption from the sanctions for 1 year. But Orban insists that it will remain in effect for longer, and here is his quote: "It will remain in effect as long as Donald Trump is the President of the United States and there is a national government in Hungary." This is a personal agreement between the two leaders. Bureaucrats can write whatever they want, but it doesn't matter at all. Orban says, listen, Marco Rubio made a statement. Who cares? We did what we wanted. I personally made this agreement with Donald Trump, so as long as Trump is president, I will keep buying Russian oil. Well, let me remind you that Viktor Orban has elections in April. It's worth noting that Orban has often had clashes with Brussels. Hungary refused military aid to Ukraine, opposes its European Union entry, and says this would drag Hungary into the war. Still, the European Union has always had leverage over Viktor Orban. This is the European Union's funding, that is, subsidies, which Orban's government relied on. But now Orban assures everyone that he doesn't care anymore about Brussels blocking the funding. And that's strange, because Orban has elections in April, and if the country is left without European Union funding, it will seriously hurt his power. The question is, what has changed? Why is Orban acting so boldly now? The thing is, sources in the White House told Politico that the Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, is hoping for support from United States President Donald Trump ahead of the parliamentary elections in his country. According to the publication, after his visit to Washington, Orban stated that the United States would provide Hungary with a so-called financial shield, which would help Budapest cope with pressure from the European Union. Orban hinted at a possible threat of funding being frozen by Brussels related to violations of the rule of law in Hungary. Trump and Orban may have agreed on a currency swap between the central banks of the two countries, which, according to Politico, could become part of a financial rescue package for Budapest. Nevertheless, despite Viktor Orban's statement about a financial shield from the United States, there is still no confirmation of any official agreements between Washington and Budapest. In addition, the National Bank of Hungary does not have any currency swap agreements with the United States Federal Reserve, nor does it have any formal support mechanism. That is, an agreement that would allow for receiving financial assistance in the event of a crisis situation. Hungary has such agreements with the European Union, but not a single one with the Americans. So for now, it's unclear exactly how Trump could save Orban. But such a scenario is possible, and it needs to be established. The scenario of financial rescue for Viktor Orban by Trump is possible, and Trump has already pulled off such a scenario quite recently. In October, Donald Trump allocated $20 billion to support Argentina's economy. It was for this amount that the United States Treasury bought Argentine pesos as part of a swap to strengthen the local currency. And this was not done for no reason. It happened just a few weeks before the midterm elections in Argentina. The United States leader hoped that the party of his foreign policy ally Javier Milei, who is often compared to Trump himself, would remain in power. If defeated, the American president vowed to end aid to Argentina entirely. That's it. And it worked. Javier Milei's party won the elections. Now Viktor Orban can count on a similar scenario. That's why his brazen behavior is quite understandable. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.